everybody, welcome. How we all doing? It's me, Legal Vices. We're here on a Tuesday evening. Um, it is a cold and dark fall autumn evening here, the 1st of November. So welcome to November here in Korea. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a follow up and update on the tragedy that happened last Saturday in Itaewon. The the crowd surge that killed and injured a staggering amount of people over the holiday weekend. It's not going to be one of our festive live streams today. Now, we'll do our best to keep it entertaining, but it's more just kind of a follow up to kind of, I guess, finish the discussion about this particular thing for the time being. I mean, here in Korea, the discussion is going to continue to go on for days, weeks, and possibly even years. But I just kind of wanted to do a follow-up stream with all of you here so that you can ask whatever questions you need to ask. And we can talk about what happened, why it happened, how to react if you find yourself in that situation, and how to avoid that situation. I mean, those are kind of important things to talk about, I think. And Andrew is somewhere. Andrew Legal Mindset is somewhere. He'll be on here when he shows up, and we should also be having a special guest checking in as well at some point during the stream. Someone who was actually there and who witnessed this. I mean, not the actual press itself, but was there on site in the thick of things. Alan, member for 3 months. Welcome. Thank you so much for continuing to be a member of the channel. Just wanted to say, love being a mod on Legal Vices, love the chat, and love the other mods. Cheers, Jeff. Thank you so much. Well, exactly. I mean, this is one thing to really discuss is how do we prevent this from happening again? And there's been some very important updates. So again, I mean, today the jokes, things like that, it's still, we like to be irreverent here on the stream. I understand that, but today I'm just kind of asking to hold back a little bit. Tomorrow we'll be here back in full swing, but today discussing this rather important topic, this rather sensitive topic. There's going to be Koreans watching this, Koreans checking in, and there's feelings. There's going to be some strong feelings here for people that view this now and people that view this later. So just kind of wanted to tie all of this together. Coming up tomorrow, we've got the law rant with the judge to see if the judge is as bad as we thought she is, or if she's the victim of a smear campaign. O.J. Simpson coming up on Thursday, and the F Friday live stream, which will be on Friday, of course. That'll be fun. But for now, let's talk about crowds. What happened in this particular crowd, and how to avoid and or react to crowds. Mr. Upper Torso says that I'm terrified of big crowds because of how badly they can go. I think I was trampled in a past life or something. I know I mentioned it during another stream and then also on Andrew's yesterday. I came in the middle of a very, very similar situation where, thank God nobody died. It was several years ago here in Busan. Every October they have fireworks festival. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, fireworks festival in the entire country, and it's just right outside my house. I took my son there. I mean, after I knew the crowds were big, but we thought if we got there early, we could get a nice little place, secure our area, and we would be safe from the crowds. But as more people came on the beach, it started to get more and more packed in, more and more pressed in to where we were just kind of sitting there watching the fireworks like this. And then after it was gone, similar situation to what happened in Seoul, about 1 million people were trying to get out of this small beach area, up small alleys. And we were kind of pressed up against a building, which is a scary, scary thing. And we were pressed up against the building and things were happening. And then I remember I put my hand inside my son's shirt and kind of wrapped it around, grabbed him around the neck and said, whatever happens, do not fall. And whatever happens, I'm not letting go of you. And it was a scary situation. And we got out, and I said, I am never, ever, ever going to put myself in that situation again. So now I just watch them from the roof of my building, or just don't watch them, because it's not worth getting involved in the crowds. So, I've seen nothing. I mean, it wasn't really comparable because there was a lot more, I'll say, escape routes or departure routes from the situation I was in. Just seeing the videos and things, the amount of people that happened in Seoul was staggering. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this situation, and please feel free to share your stories. And we'll go through this. It's a sensitive topic, so I've got to kind of rein myself in tonight. But I promise we'll be back to our usual tomorrow. Again, the monetization of this is going to be a disaster, but it feels weird to grift for super chats during this. But I'm just going to say the super chat option is there. If you take advantage of it and you support the stream through the super chats, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. But other than that, I'm not going to mention it. It sounds silly to say like and subscribe to the thing, but please like the video to get this out there so that people can see what the message is. And hit the subscribe button. We're pretty close to 32,000. We're 57 subscriptions away from 32,000. With that out of the way, I think it's time to start the discussion of what happened. Legal Mindset will be here, hopefully at some point when he gets done doing whatever it is he's doing, probably eating, I hope, or hanging out on his own channel. But until then, we're going to bring on a special guest, which some or many of you may know, but may not know that you know. Hello.
Hi.
This is our very own KaitieP from chat.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
You may have seen Katie making comments over the chat while we do the live stream, but the reason KaitieP is here is she was in Seoul. She was in Itaewon when all of this was going down. So we've brought her in here to give her comments, to give her insights and her view of what was happening. We'll kind of go through this in the stages as we go through the evening. But first, introduce yourself to everybody and to those that may not know you.
So, hi, I'm Katie. I am a teacher, an English teacher. I've been here for 6 years. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. And yeah, I teach in an elementary school. Yeah.
And how long have you been in Korea?
6 years.
You've been here 6 years, so it's not like it's a new situation. You didn't just get here and run into trouble. So you know how Korea works. You're comfortable with how Korea works.
Yes, but this was my first time doing Halloween in Itaewon.
How many times have you been to Itaewon?
Oh, I've been to Itaewon a bunch, just not for Halloween.
Dozens of times, hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times. Yeah.
And as I was saying, I've been there. I've been in that particular alley at least 1,000 times. I mean, probably multiple thousands of times. You just don't know how many times you go down a particular alley.
Yeah.
So you've been down the alley that runs up next to the Hamilton Hotel where this happened.
Yes, many times. And I think that's what's so surreal about this all. I think everybody is just in shock because how many times you walk up and down those streets and just, it was just insane. Now, I will give a disclaimer that I wasn't in the exact stampede, if you will. I wasn't in the crowd. I wasn't saving people with CPR. I wasn't in that, and I've already let Jeff know that, so I'm not one of those people. However, this is a different perspective of someone I was not even 200 meters from this, and I do have a map to show you if you want me to show you where I was.
Okay, there's a little map segment coming up, and that would be useful at the map segment point here.
Yeah.
Flux, a former service member, says she's been in that alley too.
Definitely. I think it's a very popular alley that everyone's been in, right?
And
Like,
anybody that's been to Itaewon has been in that alley. I mean, it's just
yeah.
whether they know they were in that alley or not, they were in that alley.
Yeah. Sorry.
Andrew Legal Mindset says he's finishing eating. He'll be here ASAP. But while he's doing that, we'll update you on the current situation here. Let's pull us off over here to the side. So this is an update. The current numbers are 156 dead and 149 injured, and those are serious injuries.
Yeah.
So that they've accounted for all of the bodies.
I think there was only one that's not identified the last time I read, but maybe.
Yeah, this afternoon they finally identified the last.
Oh, they did?
Person.
Okay, that's good. I don't know. I was in school, so I was teaching, so they could have done that while I was at school. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, now it's just kind of it's in processing mode, I guess. Everybody's been accounted for. Now the internal review and investigations and things like that start.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's an all around not good situation. And again, it feels weird to talk about it, but I think it's important to let people know, to get away from the sensationalism that's coming in the media and just some of the stupid shit that people are saying about it online. Here in the States or in Europe or wherever, people are just saying stupid shit, just crazy. It's vaccine related. It was obviously a fentanyl drug overdose. Those people just need to shut up.
I saw that.
Yeah. It's just plain and simple. This was too many people in too small of a situation, and bad things happened. No drug overdoses. No. No, it's not because we're wearing masks, because hardly anybody wears a mask outside anymore. It has nothing to do with that. It was an accident. It was a fluke.
Yeah, it was. Nathan C just said, have they identified all the dead? Yes, they have.
Yes.
He just said, yeah.
They've got all of the. Everybody has been identified, but that doesn't mean everybody's been accounted for. I understand there's still a lot of missing persons.
Yeah.
But I don't really understand that, but
I guess I bet even the foreign, I guess now there's 2 US and there's a whole bunch of people. Yeah, 26 foreign nationals.
Yeah, so at least this is the current status here as far as numbers and things go. At least 26 foreign nationals are among the 156 confirmed deaths from Saturday night's crowd crush that occurred amid Halloween celebrations in Seoul's Itaewon. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said the government would declare Yongsan-gu, Seoul, a special disaster area and provide necessary support, including the bereaved families and the injured. They've also, which we'll talk about a little bit later, declared this entire week a national week of mourning, where everything's been canceled, flags are half-mast, and things like this.
I don't know if you can see it, but I have our school gave us these, so we have to wear these all week at work.
The black ribbons.
Black ribbons. So because I'm not in a public school, and I am in a private school, but just out of respect, we do have to wear the black ribbon all week.
So that would explain, because I noticed today that next to Google Korea, there's a little black ribbon next to that, and I was wondering what that was all day. But okay,
it's the official ribbon for this. It's like the SEOUL.
Well, this here is the bottom of the alley where this went down here. There'll be some other pictures, some better pictures coming up later. Many pictures, if you watch the 15-20 minute video I did the other day, a lot of the same pictures, but now with a little new perspective. Legal Advice says, if I recall, one of the foreigners is the daughter of a congressman. It's an Ohio congressman's niece. I think I believe Ohio. She's from Kentucky, but her uncle is apparently one of the congressmen for Ohio. And he's also an Australian film producer. I mean, everybody's got a story, Every one of these people that didn't go home that night has a story.
Yeah,
they're somebody, But this is the map of the area here. This is the alley in question. The Hamilton Hotel sits right here. It's kind of a T intersection, and this area right down here across from the Hamilton Hotel it's an Olive Young kind of like body shop, makeup shop now. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a Burger King, and they made a famous movie about a murder that happened in the bathroom of this Burger King when I was there. Yeah, and down here there's also another hotel where another murder happened. But I mean, Itaewon used to be the Wild West. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was just debauchery all night long. And this back alley here where the arrows are, where all the people were.
So I was really on this back alley, but I was further to where the SEOUL Itaewon thing is in your picture. I was a little bit over.
Oh, you were up over there.
No, yeah, but I was on that back street just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Under that box is where I was.
Okay. All right.
So I was over there.
Yeah, but back in the day, this street it was just a regular street. Nobody ever went on this street.
No.
There's a place now called Fat Albert's. It used to be Three Alley Pub, and that was just about the only thing back there. But now it's been gentrified.
It's a whole bunch of them now. It's like the main street back there now.
Yeah, they've totally developed it, totally gentrified it, and now it's got some upscale restaurants, upscale bars, upscale clubs, and this is kind of where people congregate. It used to be along the main drag. Now, instead of congregating in this big area and up, down, lower below the map, everybody tends to congregate in this little alley, and you can see how small this alley is.
It's tiny. Like, yeah. It's just hard to believe. Like, I was also there, but much later. And it's just,
And how this all happened is we've talked about before, is you've got people going in the directions of these red areas, as well as people wanting to go up the alley, but the people from the top are filtering down, and the people trying to go up met in this dark red area here. And that also happens to be right here at the corner of the Hamilton Hotel is where the alley narrows to about 4 meters. That's 13 feet for those of you in the States. And you get
like 3 or 4 people. It's like you can fit maybe 3 or 4 people across. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this is the location where it happened, and there's a couple of pictures that you can see. This was last year. That's why everybody's wearing a mask. People were required to wear a mask last year outside. But you can see the street here is empty. It's open. I mean, it's not empty. This is pretty crowded by Itaewon standards. This was last Halloween, but you can tell there's still plenty of room to move around in. It's not wall to wall people, but it is kind of dense. This same street looked like this. That is exactly the same street. And you can see there's just no room to walk, no room to move, nothing. And this is the alley is right here at the bottom, so you were farther down below where this picture is.
Yeah, so I was like the other, like down the street more a little bit.
And this is looking up the alley.
Yeah, so I would have been if you turn right down.
Yeah, you go up here and turn right.
Yeah, a little bit further.
And you know, like I said, you can see this is normally a place where you would see 6 people walking abreast. But you can see there's 10, 15, 20 people in this cramped little area. And again, this is another shot on the street.
Oh.
And here you can see going down the hill. So Katie was off to the left.
Yeah.
And people are coming from the left, coming from the right, and going down. Oh, well, get back. Let's get back there.
Yes, they are sloped. Itaewon is a very sloped area. Someone said that they were sloped. Yeah, it's very sloped.
Yeah, we'll show pictures a little bit later from the bottom of when the hill is empty looking up. But yeah, it's a fairly steep slope going down as well. And so you can see where it bottlenecks here and then bottlenecks severely right there at this point here. And that's where the problems happened.
Yeah, that's where I was like saying that it's only like 3 or 4 people can fit
Yeah.
like beside each other. It's in that area. Crazy.
So now let's look at a couple of videos, not showing anything graphic here. This is just a couple of videos of how densely packed it was and how people were moving. Let me see here. Bring up this video. What's the title of this one? Let's see. So this is the hotel here. This is the wall of the hotel, and and Kaitie would have been up this way a little bit further. And this is the people trying to get down while people are trying to get up.
Hello, Spooky Spoon.
So I'm just going to click and drag through this and watch how the crowd moves. Watch how it flows back and forth like waves. It's just like watching waves on a beach. It goes up, then it waves, then it goes backwards as soon as the camera gets steady. You can see it flowing back and forth like a wave. And that comes in. That's important in the long run, in the whole scheme of things. And the other video is showing essentially the moment that this happened. Let's bring that one up.
I think I saw the guy in the green mask.
Oh, wow.
In where I was. I think he was in the place that I was in for a little bit.
So this is
crazy.
About 3/4 of the way down the hill, right where it bottlenecks. And again, you can see it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It basically looks like 9 or 10 people across in a space where you can comfortably stand 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then about 20 seconds into this, you're going to see what looks like people start to trip or fall or push back. And that's sort of when nothing good happens. Right here, right there. And you can hear the policeman blowing the whistle, or somebody inside the club's blowing the whistle, but nobody's paying attention. See, and when you get into this situation, there's people trying to come up, there's people trying to come down, and they're pushing against each other, and people are tripping and falling and getting pressed in the middle of that. And this just kind of goes on for another 20 seconds with nothing new there.
Music. The music was so loud, and people are like probably screaming too. You can't even hear them. It's probably
yeah. I mean, that's one thing that we were talking about, and I mean, you were there. You can talk about it. I mean, normally, because literally every inch of that entire back alley we saw on the map is either a restaurant, a bar, or a club. Mm-hmm. Every place plays music. And in Korea, there's kind of this thing where if you want to attract people, you play music piped out into the street to let them know something fun is happening inside. And if someone next to you is pumping in music, you're pumping in your music louder so that your music can be better. So you have all of these dozens and dozens of restaurants and clubs and bars pumping music out louder than everybody else. And then you have the noise of 100,000 people. What was the... Well, we've seen the crush. We've seen the situation. Talk us through you. What time did you get there? Where did you get to?
So when I first sent you my email, I rechecked my photos again this morning before I went to work, and
Oh, hang on, let me
So,
push you. Let me push pause here for just a second. We've got
oh, yeah.
Andrew from Legal Mindset
Hey
has
guys,
just joined
how's
us.
it going?
Hello,
We're doing good.
Drew.
Hey guys,
I
Andrew,
watch you
this
too.
is
I'm also a fan of you too.
awesome. Hey,
this is Katie. She's
Well,
she's
good
a
to hear
regular
that.
viewer, and she was on that back alley when all this went down.
really,
But I
wow.
wasn't.
Yeah, she wasn't in
the
it. She was
thing.
she was on it. She's
Yeah.
she's just getting ready to tell us her. We went over some of the same stuff we went over yesterday, showing the bottleneck points, the map,
Right.
and now she's gonna tell us like her story, like when she got there, how she got there, what happened, and all. So walk us through what happened when you got there.
Okay, so I was meeting. So yeah, when I was looking over my pictures from that night and like all the alerts that we got, because we got alerts on our phones and stuff from the government.
What time did the alerts start coming?
11:55.
And PM.
Yeah.
And what
PM.
time
And
did
this-
you arrive in Itaewon?
So we did arrive. So I told you about 9 o'clock, which is we got there around 9 o'clock. So we aimed to be there earlier, but we ended up getting backed up because girls, makeup, getting ready, blah blah. Sometimes it takes longer to
problem.
go. Never a problem. Free
Never,
girls.
never.
Actually, my friend was she had her high school friend also from Canada over, and she was visiting from Thailand. She's a teacher in Thailand. And so she was visiting Seoul, and it's not her first time in Seoul, but we decided, let's go out for Halloween, right? It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So
and did you walk, take a taxi, take a bus, take the subway?
No. So my friend had been there in 2018 during Halloween, and she knew how crazy it gets during Halloween. And she's like, oh, plus all the rules are gone, like all the social distancing is gone. So it's going to be nuts. So let's not take a taxi, because Itaewon on a weekend, is really, really busy anyways. So we're going to take the subway. So we took the subway, and we got to the subway station around 9, and then we were walking. As soon as we got off the subway station, it was packed. Like the people trying to get on the subway, I don't even know if they got on the train on time, because everyone getting off was just getting off, and there was just a line. Plus they closed the escalator. There's how there's about 3 or 4
this
sets
is actually
of stairs.
an important thing for later on in the story that you're talking about here. So the subways were packed already when you were coming and getting there, and you came out of which subway exit did you come out of?
So I came out of exit 2, which is the opposite one. So we turned right. But anyway, so we had to go up 3 flights of stairs and then close off the escalator, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's all these people walking up these stairs. When we were walking up the stairs out of the exits, we saw people coming down the stairs, and I was like, it's like 9:15, like what? Like 9:30ish. Like by the time we were getting, because there were so many people, it took us over half an hour to get to the, actually like probably 40 minutes by the time we got through all the crowds to
get out of the subway, walk maybe 300 yards. Took you that 30 minutes.
Took about 30 to 40 minutes just to get there. So we didn't arrive. I checked the pictures. We didn't actually get sat down until 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So, and we arrived there around 9. So we were walking, and I'm telling you, when we were walking, like you said, the wave, my friend was in front. She was holding on to her friend from Thailand that was visiting from Thailand. Well, not from, but you know what I mean. And then I was holding on to her friend's coat because we were a single file. People were trying to walk like 3 people in a row on the sidewalk because they didn't block off the street. So there were still cars on the street, and they had face painting on the sidewalk as well. So
see, that's also a very important thing in Korea. And I mean, it happens everywhere, and Andrew can testify to that as well. It's the streets are crowded anyway, but there's the business side of the street and the road side of the street. But between the road and the businesses on the far side of the sidewalk, there's always people selling stuff, doing things.
Yeah. And so, and
you have
those
face paintings, whatever.
Yeah. And so, and then you have people trying to go like 3 people across, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, no. So we're like trying to go in one, but there's people that were pushing me from behind, and it was just like you said, like a wave. Like I didn't even have to think about moving or anything. I just kind of moved.
Well,
Like,
that leads me to one last question before we move on to the next part of the evening.
yeah.
You're much more of an extrovert than me, obviously. I would have
Well,
looked at the stairs going out of the subway and said, screw it, I'm going home. Too many people. Why? I mean, seriously, in retrospect, why didn't you just go, all right, this is crazy. This is stupid. We're leaving.
so there's two answers to that. One, I'm both an introvert and an extrovert, and I don't go out much. Okay. And then another one is that we did pay for a table.
And that was the one thing. So when I was speaking to people, I said, like, the only way in which I would go to Itaewon at all is if I had a situation where I had a table and I had my own space and I had like room to breathe. But the problem is like getting in there, just I would not have put up with the crowd in the first place. But like if I had a table, maybe I would consider going. And a bunch of people I was going with that wanted to go and wanted to get a table and have our own space where I could breathe. And the plan would be show up ultra uber early and then
That was our plan.
Leave at 7 a.m. Yeah, but the makeup thing, that always throws it for a loop. And that's what was really scary. Speaking to, I've heard girls speaking on this, and I had a friend of a friend who was at one of the clubs overlooking the alley. They were above it, looking down on it. They got in early, luckily, but 10 o'clock is when this stuff started. That's not that late, like you said, with girls, with your hair, it's an hour, 2 hours, right? Quickly, all of a sudden you're showing up at 11, you have the best of intentions to get there at 8 or 9, and then you're there at 11 or 10. And that's exactly when you would have been in trouble. If you tried to get there at that time.
Well, and that's the thing. It's Itaewon. Itaewon life, nothing happens before 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when things start, and they go till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And two things to do real quick here. John Byrne, member for 2 months. Thank you, John. John is responsible for all the emojis that we see here. The crowds show how everyone was there for a good time. Hopefully appropriate measures are implemented and not overbearing on upcoming cultural events. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because we've already got a lot of stuff. I even had a friend who had a TV show they wanted to watch today, and the TV show was canceled.
Wow. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. Before we move on, someone else who is familiar with that area, another person who has been in that area and is a member of the Vice Squad chat, our very own Flux. What's up, Flux?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
It's good to talk to you. We're doing good.
It's
so
good
when
to
were
finally...
you here in Korea? Yeah.
I was actually there from 2011 to 2012. And I mean, even back then, Korea was still kind of a big party, area over there.
Yeah, and before we get into that, you give a quick introduction for those that may not know you in the chat right now.
So I'm Flux. I am a mod. I've been hanging around pretty much since the beginning of Legal Vice's channel start. I was introduced to you through the Johnny Depp trial. So yeah, just kind of hang around. I like to paint a lot. I have a channel that I'm just starting, but it's just me painting. And eventually I want to start ranting because the world's gone in the garbage.
And you should. Painting, makeup, things like that are huge on YouTube. So do that. So go ahead.
If Jeff and I can do it ranting, anybody can. Anybody can. If we can do it, you guys can too.
Oh, especially I've got the gay service member, white. I've got so much shit that I'm just ready to blow my lid on.
And Katie, do you have a YouTube channel? And when is it going to start? Okay. But Eskimo Phono, thank you so much for the super chat, kicking us off today with the super chats. Again, I'm not pimping the super chats, but due to the fact there's no monetization of this, if super chats do come in, thank you so much. Jeff, representing my birth town, Busan. Yeah, we're here. And for those of you that were concerned about me, Korea is like a rectangle. Katie's sort of in the upper right-hand corner. Legal Mindset in Seoul is kind of in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm down in the bottom right-hand corner, 2.5 hours away from everything. and Flux is aware.
Well, when I was there, I was up at Casey, so
Okay.
North.
So that's what 20 miles, 15, 20 miles north of Seoul.
Yes, it was only
Is
like.
that
What was that, Katie?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the name of the city, but
What? I know the name of the city.
I just don't know if I should share that on the internet.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no.
Is Casey Dongducheon or no?
Yes, Dongducheon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That was my train stop.
Say things on the internet. And
Yeah, Flux was a Villarat there at Dongducheon.
okay, I know where that is.
Yeah,
I know
where it is.
Hey, if you know, you know.
But now you're saying even in 2012, Flux, there was a lot of people, and I was explaining this before. Right at the bottom of Itaewon is sort of on a slope, and at the bottom of the slope used to be the main military base, Yongsan, which had 20,000 service members in it. It's since moved about an hour south, but back then, Itaewon existed essentially because of the military.
Oh yeah.
Describe a typical Saturday night 10 years ago, Flux.
Oh my goodness. Well, one moment in particular comes to mind when back then soldiers still had the curfew. At the time, I believe it was 3 a.m. But as a female, we could get away with breaking curfew because we don't look like service members. We're just English teachers out having fun, So
yeah.
I think the club was called 88. And I remember at 2:30 thinking, hey, we have to catch the train back soon or we're going to miss curfew. And then the next time I checked my phone, it was 8 a.m. So, I mean, that was pretty much how it went. You were just partying all night long.
Yeah, and how are the crowds?
Oh, even then, that was I think it was a 3-layer club. And getting all the way down was just trying to get down those stairs. Thinking back probably wasn't the smartest thing, but, we made it back then. So
You're young and you're having fun. I mean, you're not a crusty old guy like me.
You didn't care. You were having fun, drinking, and it was just everybody hanging out. You didn't care. You were all squished together. That was the point, all squished together, dancing together.
Well, let's look kind of at what happened after this crowd crush happened. Bring this back up again. These are some of the pictures of the aftermath when they're working on people, people on the stretchers, and this became just what did you see when you were there, Katie?
So I was in the club, right? And where I was, it was a certain type of music, so not everybody was crowded. They had pretty good amount of people in there. It was busy, but it wasn't overcrowded. So so we were there, and then we got a message from our friend asking us if we're okay, and we're like, what? And she told us that people are dying, and we're like, what? And she said that people are getting trampled, and we thought, is this 1 or 2 people? And then I checked online, and it said they were going into cardiac arrest. And to me, that's that could be anything, right? That could be panic attack. That could be.
And so you were still in the club or in the bar when this happened?
Yeah, because we didn't really know what was happening. We didn't know because
I missed what time it was. What time?
It was still so we got there around 10.
Yeah.
And this happened shortly after 10.
Yeah.
Right? Probably around 10:20, 10:30, right? Around there is what I'm guessing. But we didn't get an alert from the government until 11:55 saying people should stay away from the area, cars should move. And we're like, what's going on? So then we found out people were dying, and then about 1:30 our friend told us to just stay inside the club. So that's what we did. We stayed inside. And I feel kind of bad for doing that at the same time, because we were having a good time inside before that. And I feel kind of guilty because these people are like dying in the street and we're in a club, but then like our friend said, stay safe.
But I mean, you didn't know that at the time, though.
No. Yeah.
And Andrew, you were in Japan when this happened. When and how did you first hear about this?
Well, actually, I heard about it as the person who I was with was throwing up in the toilet. So we were, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I mean literally that's what was going on. I was freaking out because I was partying all night. I was in Shibuya, which was crazy, but Shibuya actually had police officers, and I wish I had the video on my computer. I don't, but they had police officers with like tape, spreading people out and kind of distancing people, which is kind of what happened in Korea when there was Corona. Like last year, you had police officers separating people because of Corona, because of the 6 feet social distancing requirements, which were mandatory in Korea at the time last year. So it's not that that's not something that can happen other places. And I've seen that sort of spacing, the guidance, the channeling people one way that was going on in Shibuya. But in Shibuya, when I was there, even on Saturday, it wasn't chest to chest. It was not at all that. It was very much more spread out. It was a little bit packed. It was kind of close, but at no point was I bumping into somebody or elbowing somebody or felt like I was moved by the crowd. But when I got back to my hotel and I'm really hurting, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm really, really drunk. I'm just getting explosions on my Korean phone, which I had left in my hotel because I was in Japan. I was using my American phone. It has international service. So my Kakao was full of people. My Instagram was full of people. And they're like, are you okay? Where are you? This and that. People I hadn't heard of in a while were just coming out of the woodwork. Now, thankfully, people on my channel that were paying attention knew I was in Tokyo. I'd been posting a lot from Tokyo. I'd mentioned I was there. My family knew I was there. I actually had a call with my brother earlier that night, so they knew I was fine. But I was shocked, and as soon as I figured it out, I was like, "Holy shit, I'm awake." As much as I drank, I wake back up because for me, it was very traumatizing as a person who goes out in Itaewon. Like I was out in Itaewon. Not joking, a week and a half before this happened, I was out in Itaewon. I've gone down that alley before. I've been in that area so many times before. And all I was thinking about is somebody I know there, is somebody that I like a person who I know, an acquaintance of them, is a family member there. And it's really shocking because if you look at the cross section, and I think Korea released the information on it today, it's a wide range of people. I think it was about 97 or so female, 54 male, 4 teenagers, 9 people in their 40s. There are a lot of people in their 30s, majority in their 20s, but maybe you wouldn't think, hey, a person in their 40s is out in Itaewon on Halloween, but they were. So it really could be anybody. It could be anybody which for me was pretty crazy. And when I went there the next day, when I got back to from Tokyo to Seoul on Monday, and I went there, I meant to take a lot of photos, but frankly, it was hard for me to even take photos because I like felt a certain type of way about it, and seeing people crying and grieving and just imagining it was me or somebody that I knew or somebody that I cared about. It was just a lot. And so I took some photos and showed everybody generally what was going on, but it was not a place I wanted to spend a lot of time. And frankly, unfortunately for Itaewon, I think a lot of people are going to feel the same way I am and say, look, it's hard to go back. I know these businesses are struggling. I know they've had problems with COVID, and I'm the first person to say support businesses because they've been struggling during COVID. I'm the first person to say that. But this is going to be really hard for Itaewon to recover from because people are not going to forget this. This is going to sting for a while.
Yeah. And Flux, I mean, you're in America. Where and how did you first hear about this?
Well, see, and that's, having been in Korea, I do follow some Korean things. And you guys still use Kakao? That's still a thing?
Kakao is a huge thing.
Kakao owns
and I'll
the
never
country.
go away.
Kakao runs everything. You have money on Kakao.
That was just the app we used back in the day to communicate.
That was just starting back then.
Yeah, like literally they're like, hey, we're going to start using this app to text because it's the best one that they have right now.
I mean, now there's Kakao Shopping, Kakao Coupons, Kakao Taxi, Kakao Navigation.
Wow.
So
Kakao
the
owns this country.
So when I was
Wow.
visiting Jeff in Busan, the Kakao data center actually caught fire. And so the country like half shut down because people were trying to like call their cabs and they couldn't, and like find their maps. And they couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
people.
kinda
I mean, I was standing waiting in the middle of the night after Andrew went to sleep to get a taxi back home, and there was like these 21, 22-year-old girls were like, "Oh, Kakao still isn't working. How do I get a taxi?" Stick your arm out. Thanks for the taxi. I'm gone. You know. But yeah. So where were you and how did you find out about this?
So, like I said, I still am on some of the Facebook pages from, the units over there and stuff, and they had put out like a, PSA type of thing. And my mind immediately went to, I'm kind of surprised there weren't more foreigners. Like it was kind of, the majority were Koreans, and it wasn't more foreigners or like soldiers and stuff like that, because that was the spot, especially for a celebration like Halloween, which, I'm thankful there were no soldiers, but like, it was surprising to me that there was that few of, foreigners there.
I'm actually surprised at that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the foreigner number was really low compared to what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how many was in your group, Katie? You were just like the 3 or 4 of you?
3 people.
And how many foreigners were there inside the club or the bar you were at?
Well, I don't want to give away what kind of music we were. So
because that gives away the club, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I know Itaewon. So if you told me, I would know immediately where you were.
Yeah.
Was it like
and
a
I don't want to give.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of.
I don't
want to
give the name of the club, but there were a lot of Koreans in there. Don't get me wrong, but
was
there
it
were
mostly foreigners, or because a lot of clubs,
like 50-50.
I
but,
probably know where you were.
So people are there.
Maybe people were there, but another thing that I realized, like you guys were saying about the different ages, we saw before we went in, we saw this. I didn't even think about this until later. There was this little kind of like maybe 3-year-old in a pumpkin like cute costume, and he was standing, so I'm assuming he was 3, but he was standing in his cute thing, and everyone was taking pictures, and like we were like, oh, he's so cute, and like thankfully they were going the other way, like from where we were. They weren't going down that way towards the Hamilton. They were going the opposite way. So, like, it was okay. But I just remember, and
That's
I'm like,
scary. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that until after. I was like, oh my God, I hope they made it. I hope they just went right home. I hope they saw how crowded it was. It was 10 o'clock. So I hope they were like, okay, time to go to bed. Like,
and on the other end of the spectrum, there's always old men, old women collecting garbages, cleaning the streets, collecting boxes. Yeah. And I'm surprised that there weren't any of the elderly people caught up in this as well.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember like the Travis Scott concert a few months back where this happened. Like, you'd think that after COVID, knowing that the crowds are going to be like this, there would be, something to kind of even out just the mass of people there were.
And that's one thing we're definitely going to get to here in just a few minutes.
I was going to say I have to stop because I was going to rant about it.
No.
Rant later.
Again, this is just some of the pictures of what was going on then. They're getting the stretchers, taking the people to the hospitals.
Yeah,
and this is the blurred out there.
Thankfully,
stacking. Literally stacking the bodies in the street.
I'm glad I didn't see this. I'm glad I was the opposite way.
Now this is where we're going to get into. This is the bottom of the alley. You can see here in this picture, and so you can see how it has this rather steep incline going up. And again, this is a good picture of how narrow that alley is.
I'm pretty sure I've thrown up right outside of that door over there.
I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the smell of that alley was what made you throw up, because all of these they smell exactly the way they look in the photo.
Yeah.
The bush I slept in a few months ago is about 50 yards from there.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah. There's two English language newspapers here in Korea, with the Korea Times and the Korea Herald. And this is an article that was in the Korea Times yesterday. It says the emergency calls started to come around 10:24 p.m. on Saturday, reporting the tragedy which happened in a narrow sloped alley immediately west of the Hamilton Hotel. The alley, because Itaewon runs east-west. The alley, 41 meters long and only 4 meters wide, barely enough room for 6 adults to stand side by side, runs between Itaewon's main thoroughfare and another busy alley called Itaewon World Food Street, running behind the hotel. That's the pictures that I showed you with the bajillion people stacked up there. A popular nightlife area for foreigners and Koreans in Seoul's central Yongsan district, Itaewon has often seen huge crowds. So again, these huge crowds, I mean, this type of a crowd is excessive, but they're still very familiar with large crowds, especially around every Halloween when costume-wearing revelers fill the alleys throughout the area. But this latest Halloween saw even larger crowds than ever before. According to one witness at the scene who survived, the crowd density reached the point where people were completely stuck in place. According to one rumor, people were rushing to see a celebrity at one of the establishments in the area, which has since been proven to be incorrect. There was one person who was a competitor on sort of one of these talent these talent hunting things in 2017, and he was supposed to be on a TV show next year. But yeah, so there was no big celebrity that people were rushing to see. And that he was one of the people that died in the crush.
Mm-hmm.
That's where shortly before the incident, one survivor reported hearing people screaming, and he hears them just totally shutting off the street. Have all the emergency vehicles lining up and down. The situation turned fatal when some people in the middle of the crowd, again, that's where that's where the meeting of the people pushing up meets the people pushing downhill, pushing over others next to them and triggering a domino effect. Witnesses said the collapse seemed to have happened abruptly at once. One of the survivors said he felt a sudden weight on his back as the crowd surged forward. The push knocked some people down, which initiated the fiasco. I saw one male seriously injured and bleeding all over. Due to the incline of the road, the crowd pressed more heavily on the downhill, and people piled up on top of others, as many as 5 to 6 people deep. So you're looking at the people at the bottom of the pile have 500 or 600 pounds on top of them.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. The pressure caused many lower down to have difficulty breathing and lose consciousness. Witnesses said that onlookers shouted at those on top of the hill to pull back to save the people underneath, but some in the crowd misunderstood it as push and did what they heard, prolonging the predicament. And again, there's the music. Now, this is subway exit number 1.
Exit 2 was no better. Exit 2 was no better.
Yeah, which one is the one, like when I got there, one was closed afterwards because that pretty much directly spills out onto it.
Yeah. You walk up these stairs and you turn right directly into that alley. And Katie, you were over here at exit 2, right?
Yeah, they were both packed because when you're under there, you have 2 options, right? You just go like this. It's basically an open thing and you just go like this. You just pick your way. They were both that packed. It was insane.
And it says early reports claimed that a crowd had trampled one person. Emergency workers and ambulances from Yongsan Fire Station and other nearby fire stations arrived at the scene much later than usual because of all the vehicular and foot traffic in the area. I believe they said there was 159 ambulances and like 856 first responders.
If you look on that photo and you kind of look across from that, the 119 station, the closest one, is actually pretty close. It's actually within general, but obviously there's no large trucks there like fire trucks.
It's like right here. This is a bank. The police station is literally right here on the other side of this red stoplight.
Yeah, exactly where you're pointing.
And this is going to come into play here because there was an update like 30 minutes before we came here on the air. Some very, very interesting things. Rescuers and police officers attempted to free people trapped in the pile, but the accumulated weight of bodies made their attempts futile for a while. A video shot by an eyewitness from higher up in a building shows a policeman struggling unsuccessfully with the arms of one of the trapped victims. The woman, according to the video, can be heard sobbing and saying, "Oh my God, the bodies are not moving at all." All the employees from the shops nearby came out and helped rescue people. And other witnesses says it was truly chaos. Almost 300 people ended up suffering breathing problems after the victims were freed. The streets and the alleys around the Hamilton Hotel in the vicinity of the scene were packed with rescue workers performing CPR on dozens of unconscious victims. And there's some video of that if you search for it, but it's pretty darn tragic to see.
I can't watch that again.
Yeah, no, I saw that. It's bad. Just the rows. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm glad I didn't see that. I'm glad I was inside and I didn't have to see any of that, because that was gone when I came out. That was all cleared away.
It's not something you want to see. So
No.
But the victims outnumbered the emergency workers available at the scene. Workers and bystanders who decided to help out carried the bodies of those who couldn't be resuscitated to ambulances. Firefighters ran around the area giving CPR to people. It was like a war zone. And this is some of the pictures slightly blurred of them giving CPR just en masse to people in the streets. Because most of the victims,
people too, as well.
Yeah.
They were asking people just standing by if they knew CPR, because one of my coworkers, her sister's friend, I guess, was one of the ones that was asked to give CPR. She was like giving CPR to the victims.
So most of the victims were women in their 20s. The youngest had been identified as 16 years old. Many foreigners were also in the crowd. Those who needed immediate treatment were transported to the hospital. Larger scale thing. We don't need to know where they went and stuff. Because now this is another thing that happens when you get 100,000 people in the space of a few blocks. And I think there was more than 100,000 people. What do you think about that, Katie? Do you think there was more than 100,000 people there?
Easily.
I mean, 100,000 is what you would get on a
There might
normal
have been
Halloween.
There might have been 100,000 on like the specific 3 or 4 alleys, right? Like just
that's
in
what
that
I'm
area.
thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're probably not counting like you guys know, like if you go a little bit further, like to like Noksapyeong, like they're probably not counting like the general area, right? And if you start getting a little bit away, they probably weren't counting that, or like south of the station,
across the street where
like Hooker Hill, or
places like
they're probably
that.
not counting that. They're probably just counting like the
Flux knows what we're
crowd
talking about.
right
She's
there.
smiling at Hooker Hill.
Yeah, Hooker Hill. You know?
I don't know what you're
Okay, yeah. But yes, I mean that's what I'm thinking. There was probably 100,000 people on that side of the alley from the beginning of the food street to the end of the food street.
Right.
Because I mean, just the numbers just don't add up otherwise. But because the scene following the action was so crowded with victims, rescuers, and onlookers, phone and internet reception were out of service. So you can't call for help because the system is down. All emergency workers available in Seoul at the time were called to the scene.
That's a lot.
And Seoul is a city of 10 million people. So basically everybody was called.
And I believe it, because when I went there the next day, they were still like the most police I've seen in Korea in a long time. And they were all out patrolling. The buses were out. The cars were out. It was insane.
Oh, and so Katie, what time did you get out of the club?
1:30, they shut it down. We asked them if the government was shutting it down, and they said they just didn't feel right keeping it open. And also, like, there was police also like blocking off the area. So when we came out, we had to get our coats from coat check, and the police were they had that side blocked, so you couldn't go any further past that side of the street. So you had to keep going left and around. So back to the main street.
How many people, how densely packed was it still at 1:30 a.m.? Oh, at 11:30, it's like 3 hours after.
It was still quite, I mean, it was still quite a few people, because it took us over maybe an hour or so to get a taxi, and we weren't doing it for an hour straight. We actually went to a convenience store. We walked quite a bit. We passed Hanganjin station.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
so you really walked. Yeah.
Because the police kept telling us to keep walking. We had to keep walking out of the area. So they were like, all the subways were closed. They shut down the subway earlier, I think, as well because they didn't want people crowding in the subway. And there was police stationed at every entrance basically to the subway.
So you pretty much had to walk like all the way to Hanam to get like a cab.
We ended up getting it back. We walked back and got one, but we had to get a venti, and those are more expensive, right? So we ended up spending like 50,000 won on a taxi just to get back to my friend's house because we're like, we don't care. We just want to get home. We're tired.
Get out, yeah.
We're traumatized because of all the police and like everything, like just guiding us. And we really had to go to the bathrooms. We had to find a convenience store too. And right. We had to find a bathroom, and we tried to go in the subway, and the police were like, "No." We're like, "Can we just use the bathroom?" And they're like, "No."
It's about $50.
So we had to keep walking and walking and walking, find a convenience store, and we grabbed some water, waited for a little bit, and then just obsessively kept trying to call taxis. But everyone was calling taxis. No one could get really a taxi. So,
Flux, what was the? Yeah, good. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, no, I'll say that is a common experience even on a normal one night.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Jeff and I were trying to call a taxi and we didn't get taxis for like a full hour. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just walking to Hwagan to the next station." There.
Well, that's why I slept in the bush. I couldn't get the taxi.
Yes.
I'm like, screw it, I'll just sleep until morning in the bushes.
And I ended up missing my subway stop because I passed out drunk and passed Yaksu Station and ended up like halfway down that line. And I was like, fuck it, I got to call a taxi now because I'm too far away. But I mean, no, it's always a problem. But then if you 10X that, right, that's that night, right? So a regular Saturday is a problem. A 10X, 100X night is insane.
Well, John Burns, thank you so much here. With the Korean representation from both Legal Vices and Legal Mindset, would we be likely to see a charity stream to raise a bit of money for the families? I would back that. That's kind of not really a thing here, you know.
And even
it's interfering.
Yes, it's interfering, and even with a lot of the tragedies in Korea, and I'm going to put this very politically, Vices, but they don't want sometimes to have memorials or something because in the property owners won't want that because they'll view that as lowering the property value and scaring people away and yada yada. So even if there's something that comes up and it's available, I would absolutely be open to the idea, but is it likely? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, there's also this Asian saving face thing. This is a tragedy, but it's a huge international embarrassment as well. And so they're not really receptive to foreigners going, here, you guys screwed up, take some money from us. So there, I mean, it's just something that's not really done. But the mindset, if you will, Andrew, is appreciated.
I'm with you, girl. I'm with you.
And Spooky Spoon, love you all. Thank you so much for that. Flux, when you were here in 2012, 2011, 2012, what was like the biggest event that you can recall?
The biggest event that I can recall was the Lady Gaga concert. And that was...
Has that been 10 years? Wow.
It was... oh, my God. Oh, God.
And how was...
Yeah.
How was it getting in and out of there, getting taxis, getting home?
I mean, you couldn't. It was literally like, I mean, New York City on, New Year's Eve. There's no room to move. And even if you do have a car, there's 9,000 other cars around you that aren't moving. And I would say it probably, I want to say getting in and out of the venue maybe took 2 hours trying to get in and then 2 hours trying to get out of the venue. And I think it added about took us about 4 hours to get back to post instead of 2.
And that was at Chamsil Stadium, if I remember, which gives you about 25,000 people. This was 4 times that.
It felt like more than that, but yeah. It always feels like more when you're in it too. Yeah. Like, because all you can see is people. You look there, you can't see anything but people, and it is very like you can't go anywhere. There's literally nowhere to go.
Well, this leads to the discussion and Katie's rant, and maybe a little bit of rant from everybody. We'll have to see how it.
I'll be careful because
Wait, hi, that's not the one I wanted. Hello, everybody. I'm bigger than you. Yeah. Was this accident preventable? Katie, you were in it.
100,000%.
What I don't want to go back and say how this could have been prevented. Let's go forward and say something, not what was done wrong this time. What could be done next time to prevent something like this from happening?
Oh, how do I do this now, Jeff? Without talking about this one.
I'll start and tell you what I think needs to be done.
Okay, you do it.
And it's what happens here. We talked about it on Legal Mindsets channel yesterday, how they work the fireworks display after the horrible near crush that I talked about at the beginning. You've got the ocean, which is sort of equivalent to the brick walls of the buildings, and then there's a street, and then there's another brick wall, which would be something like the other side of the alley, and there's small alleys that feed up to it. They closed off both ends of the beach about a 2-mile distance. So there's about 2 miles of beach they just sealed off, and then they sealed off the road above it as well, so nobody could come from the road above the beach road down any of the side alleys. And they strictly limited the number of people that they would allow in. And so each alleyway and the ends were being coordinated, people checking numbers to keep the numbers of people in the beach area to a minimum. And when it was full, it was done. They locked it off. There was police everywhere. There was lots of confrontations with police and things of people trying to get in because they came from so far away, and they all got the tough shit. It's capacity. Well, I live there, and so they said, "Well, show me your ID with your address on it, and we'll let you in." And even I was lucky I had my ID on me, because apparently, as Legal Mindset knows, I tend not to carry it because I don't need it.
Yes, you son of a. Seriously, 2 nights in a row. Anyways,
yeah, we couldn't get into one of the dive bars we wanted to get into down here on the beach.
And then we almost didn't get into a club. A sketchy club. Because Legal Vice is there. Luckily, he charisma rolled. He rolled a 20 in charisma and got us past the bouncer, which is good.
Yeah. So I had everything there. Okay, they checked my ID and they said, "Okay, you can go through." Because literally everybody said, "Well, I live there." Yeah, and that's what he told me. He said, "Yeah, everybody we've talked to says they live here." So prove it. So I think that's what they would need to do, is seal off Itaewon from down where Yongsan used to be, where Noksapyeong station is, all the way up maybe to Hanamdong at the other end.
Yeah.
And then not let anyone into the back alleys. The Hamilton, where it's at the T intersection, block that off as well. And just control the number of people and let people know that, when it's capacity and it's done. What do you think, Katie? You were there and you saw things. What would your recommendation be?
Yeah, I think the biggest part was not blocking off the street, because even in my hometown, when we have the Canada Day fireworks and it's in a big, huge field, one of the things they do is block off the main road, and it's not for safety for the actual fireworks because they're in a different place. It's literally for crowd control. And if anything happens, it's for ambulances, for fire trucks if they need to get in. And I think I'm not going to blame the police. I know someone said on here in the chat, I can see the chat, and it says, "Oh, here we go, blaming the police." I'm not going to blame the police on this one, because it wasn't their job. I don't know. I don't find the officers I found that I talked to and saw, they were actually really nice, and they treated us really nicely, and I think they handled it pretty well with what they had.
Well, that's why I was saying that we don't want to talk about what went wrong this time, just what can be done next time to prevent it. I mean, logistically speaking, there hasn't been a crowd this big there, even for Halloween. So they did. There wasn't this feeling really of things are going to be out of control tonight. We've done this for since time immemorial, since since at least Dinosaur Flux was here 10 years ago, people have been
Dinosaur.
coming
She
in.
does not look like a dinosaur.
She's got a dinosaur on her shirt. It's cute.
Oh, okay.
All my friends are dead.
That's
Oh.
kind of dark. That's kind of dark.
That's got a it's a
Come on.
darkly inappropriate shirt.
You know.
But yeah, so I mean, even back then there was these large crowds, but nothing had gotten out of control. So we're just kind of looking at what could be done next time. And Andrew, you went there the next day, and what did you see the next day when you were there?
Yeah, and my answer is obviously going to be the no and yes, right? Because like you said, we're not talking about something that's already happened. Something in the past cannot be changed. But I worked with a lot of cities when I was in Florida, and almost all of them that I worked with, would require people to submit an event plan, when there's something of that scale. And if it required multiple businesses to get together and say, hey, we're all going to do this, here's our plan, right? So perhaps there's some sort of system they can set up in the future that can help coordinate multiple entities that are running large events like this. But what I saw was the area cordoned off. I saw people weren't allowed to go on that street. I saw that street was pretty much completely blocked off from traffic. There really weren't cars that were going up and down Itaewon Row, which is like the main street up through the station. So that area around the Hamilton Hotel completely blocked off. Tons of police there, people mourning, people crying. That area, exit 1, completely blocked. You could not go up exit 1. You were not permitted to go up exit 1. I actually went up exit 3 out of an abundance of caution, which is actually right near that police patrol unit. And as soon as I came up, I was greeted by a bunch of police and actually government photographers that were stationed there, but they were kind of blocking people from taking direct photos. So they really didn't want, it was clear they didn't want people to take very, very close up photos that weren't like the official photos. So that's why when I ended up taking my video crossing the street, I was watching from exit 3 to 4, it was still at a distance. So it's not a very close up shot. It's not showing the alley. And it wasn't showing any of the people that were grieving, in detail.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the street, when you go all the way down, where it intersects with Noksapyeong-dero, by that curve, where the Welcome to Itaewon, Korea blue sign is, that was where the memorial was. So
okay. I thought it was by the alley.
No, well, there's a smaller one there, but and there were a lot of people gathered at that smaller one there. But at the corner, at that curve, there's more of an area to gather. There's more space for people. Yeah. So that's where they had the official one set up with all of the flowers, with the incense. There was a line so people could come and pay their respects. But that was set up at the end there.
Well, before we get our last opinion on what can be done, Ember Fox reminded we should probably do a good midstream reintroduction. Obviously, there's high legal advice. We've got Andrew Legal Mindset here. We also have KaitieP, who you may know from our chats. She is an English teacher here in Korea, and she was there on the street, not in the actual crush itself, but in a club just off of where it happened while it was happening. So she's giving us her insight on what it was like before and then after, and getting home. And Flux is a former service member.
English teacher.
Yeah, she's a fake English teacher to hide from the CID and the courtesy patrol.
I like it.
Former service member who served in Korea and has visited frequently, I would imagine, Itaewon in 2011 and 2012 to sort of give us the historical context and comparing and contrasting how it's looking today, which she was saying it was even crowded back then, which it was. And so go ahead 10 years to where we are now, where Halloween is much more popular. Flux, what would you suggest for how something like this could be prevented in the future? Bonus points if your MOS was logistics related.
I dealt with vehicles in technically logistics. But I mean, ultimately, people are going to do what people are going to do, and they're going to crowd regardless if you have barricades, if you have police officers. People are going to go where they want to go. I think I think anytime you close off areas, it's bad because it's not allowing space for people to kind of breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So like how they close off the train stations and stuff like that. I understand they don't want people crowding the subways, but that's also areas to get people out quickly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure events like this are super preventable. I think they are preventable to an extent, but at the same time, just coming out of COVID, just coming, back into all this stuff, you are not going to be able to control people wanting to go out and just, even if you are like this, they want to be with people. They just spent the past 2 years not being with people. They want to be with people. So with as much as, I hope, stuff like this wouldn't happen in the future, setting up different measures, but it in the end, like, what can you really do if people just keep coming?
I mean, do you have any thoughts on any particular measures that just in your own view of the world might help?
None that people would like. I mean, I'm all for standing there with tear gas and saying, go away. I think that's
Fair
the
enough.
biggest and best deterrent. Just go away or, But,
well, this kind of relates to the news that just broke about 30 minutes before I started the stream. And it deals with the immediate reaction after. And this is all in Korean, so I'll have to stop and translate the relevant parts as we go along. Interesting to hear people's thoughts. This is brand new breaking news as of about an hour and a half ago.
이태원 참사가 있기 전 경찰이 인명 피해가 우려된다는 신고를 처음 받은 건
they're saying that the authorities received calls of basically waves of humans pouring into the area 6 hours before the incident. So 6 hours before it happened, they were already starting to get reports in the police station.
참사 발생 4시간 전이었던 것으로 확인됐습니다.
이후에도 현장에서 사람들이 갇히고 있다며 통제가 필요하다는 신고가 10여 건 더 들어왔지만
So they received 11 reports from as early as 4 hours before it happened that people thought they needed to seal off the area.
결국
So 6:30.
6:30. 나혜인 기자입니다.
이태원 참사와 직접 관련된 인명피해 신고가 소방에 처음 접수된 건 지난달 29일 밤 10시 15분.
So the first report that something had happened came in at 10:15 p.m. But before that,
근데 이보다 4시간 전인 저녁 6시 34분.
at 6:34, the first reports came into the police station. 119 is 911 here in Korea. That's the emergency. 112 is the police. Like that'd be like calling police dispatch.
So even if you showed up early, like the chance, and I had mentioned this because Jeff and I were watching videos, and we were watching videos of other alleys and streets, and I walked around in Itaewon, and many of the different alleys and streets. I mean, you had Hooker Hill right across the way, which I'm sure was packed as well. There's so much elevation and so much potential density. This could have happened on any street in Itaewon. It didn't. It just happened to happen at that moment in that alley. But this could have happened at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. It just happened to happen at 10:30.
Yeah.
하는 신고가 먼저 접수됐던 것으로 드러났습니다. 신고자는 참사 현장인 해밀턴 호텔 앞 좁은 골목을 정확히 가리켜.
Now this is the first report that came in at 18:34, so at 6:34 p.m. And they identified the location next to the Hamilton Hotel. And my old eyes, let me embiggen my screen here so I can read this. My old bifocals. I should have worn the bifocals. All righty, where are we here? Oh, come on, it's not. There we go. So this is a report from at 6:34 p.m. Near the Hamilton Hotel, the small alley next to the Hamilton Hotel, there's lines forming in front of clubs. There's human waves coming out of Itaewon Station. The people coming out of there are trying to go into the alley, and they're getting confused and they're getting tied up with people coming down the alley. And if something goes wrong, it's going to be a human crush. So something has to be done to block off traffic. Please block off traffic at the entrance to Itaewon. This was a report that came in about 4 hours before it happened.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
압사당할 것 같다며 인원 통제를 해달라고 경찰에 요청했습니다. 너무 불안하다, 소름이 끼친다는 공포감도 표현했습니다.
So the person was saying that they feel very uncomfortable. They're getting goosebumps. They're frightened.
YTN이 참사 발생 2시간여 전인 저녁 8시쯤 촬영한 현장 모습입니다.
This is what it looked like at 8 p.m. They're saying that this blurred out image was video taken at 8 p.m. 2.5 hours before this happened.
이 무렵에도 경찰에는 사람들이 너무 많아.
And three additional phone calls came in at 8:09, 8:33, and 8:53, saying there's so many people that people are falling down, people are getting hurt. It's confusing. Come and sort this out. And at 8:33, that isn't being shut down. The traffic isn't being shut down. And then 8:53, there's so many people here that people are getting crushed. And this was an hour and a half or 2 hours, 1 hour and a half before anything serious happened.
넘어지고 다치고 있고 압사당하고 있다는 신고가 3건 들어왔습니다. 밤 9시부터 최초 소방 신고.
And then from 9 until 10:11, 7 more reports were made to the police. And they were all basically saying, that there's so many people here that there's going to be a huge accident. And a serious accident is imminent. And then the second was, there's so many people here that it feels like we're being crushed. Please come here and prevent people from coming. Seal off the area.
밤 10시 15분 사이에도 경찰에는 대형 사고 일보 직전이라거나 사람 죽을 것 같다며 통제가 필요하다는
It seems like people are going to die.
7건 잇따랐습니다.
Seal off the area.
이렇게 참사 전 4시간 동안 접수된 신고 11건 가운데
Now
That's right in front of exit 2. That's right
Yeah.
in front of exit 2.
Yeah, and this building here, the bright blue building, has an underground club in it. So those people were in a really bad situation there.
Yeah.
I think back in the day when you were here, Flux, that was the Hard Rock Cafe. If the Hard Rock Cafe was still there, then.
I might have been. I probably was there. 99% yes, I was there.
Now, this is the important thing. They say that from 4 hours before, a total of 11 calls were made to the police, but they only responded to 4 of them.
경찰이 실제 출동한 건 4건이었습니다. 담당 경찰관은 현장에 가서 해산하라고 하거나 시민들을 인도로 안내한.
So they said that when they went to the site, they told them to go home, to get off the hill, told them where to go, and told them not to go up there. And then they went back to the station.
통제 조처를 했다고 기록에 남겼습니다. 6건은 주변에 경찰력이 배치돼 있다고 전화로 안내만.
And for 6 of them, they just took the phone call and just handled it over the telephone with the person that called. And one of them, they don't know what the response was.
나머지 한 건은 어떻게 대처했는지 명확하지 않다고 경찰은 설명했습니다. 그러면서 당시 담당 경찰관의 대응이 적절했는지는 감찰 조사로 밝히겠다고 덧붙였습니다.
So now now they're going to investigate whether the police responded properly and whether proper procedures were followed.
이태원 참사가 있기 전 경찰이 인명 피해가
We already
우려된다.
got you there. All right. So that's we'll get to this here in a bit, but that's the latest breaking news that 11 phone calls came in during the previous 4 hours before it happened. They responded directly to 4 of them, talked to 6 over the phone, and they don't know what they did for the 11th call. So the police are coming under scrutiny.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, that they just released. That was just on the news, like I said, 30 minutes before we started the show here.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is, it's easy to say in hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously,
Yeah.
you know that now, and we can all say, and we can sit here in armchair quarterback and say, oh, well, we should have totally done that, but flip it on the face and see how many businesses would have been angry with the police if the police stormed in and said, shut it all down, close it all down, we're closing it down. They would have been dealing with 100,000 angry people, and that's a riot, which can even be worse, right? People can get killed in riots as well. There can be stampedes that are caused as a result of the police going in and forcing everybody out. So, we can't sit back in armchair quarterback and say, hey, this would have been better. Yeah. They should have shut it down at 6 o'clock. And I think that's not very productive. However, right, when we say about the future, it's like, how do they respond better when they receive this information? Because clearly they weren't in a position to respond to that this year, even though they were receiving it. It's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, Jibs and Jabs is saying, how are the police supposed to respond to overcrowded place? Like we showed you when Andrew was talking about where the police station is there, and they're sort of like little tiny precinct offices. There's probably 8 people that work in that little place at any
not enough
time
to shut down all of Itaewon, right?
Yeah.
This is a giant event with 100,000 people, and if you've got that many people, you probably need at least a fraction of that, right? You probably need a 20th or at least a 10, something in terms of policemen on the streets to shut that down. You need a lot of
they had so many when we came out. They were all over. There was at least I don't know, 30 on the one street I was on, I would say, just because they were trying to get people out of all the bars of that area and making sure they were going the right way. And they were trying to get people out as fast as possible and making sure that they kept walking up the street towards Hanganjin because they didn't want anyone the other way.
WMMAC now, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, I was stationed in Korea 2006 to 2010. When I left, that area was starting to get nicer as trendy spots started opening. Times really changed for Itaewon. Yeah, it's really upscale now. It's hard to find the old gritty dive bars that used to be the character of the area.
They just redid a couple of the places to make them bougier.
You have to go closer to the military posts for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Redwater says, why not just back up?
You can't.
That was, if you back up, that's how you're going to get pushed, and that's how you're going to fall over. Yeah. If you try to swim, it's like in a riptide. Why don't you swim against a riptide? Because you'll get pulled. And the same again.
If you're here, how do you back up 100,000 people? If you're this person right here, how do you back up? I mean, that's just There's 100,000 people falling on top of you and pushing you from behind. You can't just back up.
I think that's why people were falling over. They were just everyone was pushing, and I heard that actually one guy climbed over them back, and went the other way, and he survived. But I don't think if everyone did that, there'd be again more casualties.
Yeah, because while you're trying to move back, the person behind you is trying to move forward. You step on his foot, he falls down. That causes 2 more people to fall down, which causes 10 more people to fill that space. It's just not.
I read that one girl was under there for 1 hour.
Yeah, took an hour to get her out.
Yeah, that's.
When King Bob says my wife was here to say what it was like in 88, 89, I got here in 88. So back then, not many people went to Itaewon because it was a filthy, dirty place full of scary foreign military guys, prostitutes,
which was perfect for Jeff. He felt right at home.
No, I was a good little Mormon missionary back then. Fast forward to 1991, and that's a different story.
Hey, that's the year I was born.
Sweet.
I was gonna say 88. I wasn't even born yet. Sorry, Jeff.
So it was Wild West back then, and nobody went there, and it was seedy, dark, empty, dirty, and people stayed away. but then it started to get gentrified, like you said, in the early 2000s. That will actually start a little bit before that because the World Cup was coming in 2002. So right around 2000, they started to redevelop the area, and it's really been gentrified over the past 20 years. But now, I mean, now the important part, how do we, well, Kaitie, you were there. You were there before this happened. What I want to talk about now is sort of get everybody's input on how you can identify a situation where it may go from a lot of people having fun to this situation. When you look back and see how it was before and then what you've seen about this, were there any indications that this might get out of hand?
I mean, I kind of saw, well, again, I kind of remember the Travis Scott thing. That was
Were you
kind of
thinking
after.
about that? Oh, that was,
I
it was
kind
an
of,
afterthought.
I mean, I was thinking about it, but I was like, this is really crowded. At first we were like, oh my gosh, they sealed off the escalator, man, where there's so many stairs, there's so many people like going up the stairs. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. And one guy said to me he's never seen so many people before. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I've never seen it either. Like, and being squished on the subway, especially line 9, is pretty normal, right? But this was insane. Like, it was just insane. And I told you, like, when I was walking, I didn't feel like I was actually doing anything. Like, I felt like my feet were moving, but I didn't feel like I was actually contributing to my walking. It just felt like a wave was pushing me, and I wasn't even in the alley. I was just in the main street. People were just pushing, and I'm glad we took the main street though and not the back alleys, because at that time they still would have been, again, that's right when we almost right before it happened. So and in the main street, you can kind of run into the main street, right? So there's a little bit more space. I know there was cars there, but I'll chance a car more than, getting squished to death by people. So,
I mean, if there was a warning, in retrospect, hindsight being 2020, was there any warning sign that if you saw again, you would just turn around and go home?
Absolutely. This time I wouldn't care about the money. Again, I think if I saw that many people in a subway station, I would just be like, nope, going home. Like, I would just turn right back around and go back on the subway, or just not go at all. I don't think I will ever go out for Halloween again, to be honest.
I mean, that's understandable. Yeah, but whether it's Halloween crazy or not, if you go out and there's a large number of people, so you say even just the amount of people leaving the subway for the area would be one indicator.
Yeah, because it was just nuts. Like, I don't even know if they made the subway, people getting on it. Like,
that's what I've been trying to say is to people, it's like nobody went there thinking I'm not going home tonight.
Yeah.
And the more people, the more fun it is. You're wall to wall people, you're pushing and you're shoving against each other, having fun, going, I'm going to get through. It's what we were talking about on the Legal Mindset yesterday. It's all fun and excitement until suddenly it isn't.
Yeah. And I will go back to Itaewon. Absolutely. I will go back because I like the place we were at. We have a friend that works there, kind of, not mine, but yeah, like, I don't know, just, I will go there. I will still go there.
Well, Andrew, I mean, you're from Florida. I'm sure you've done spring break at Daytona Beach and things like that.
I'm not Floribama trash, but I went to Ultra when it cost $30, and I've done.
You've been in the clubs. You've been to the raves.
I've done a lot of drugs at festivals that are way past the statute of limitations. So let me just put it that way. So
what's a crowd indicator? How can we identify when shit is about to happen?
I think, because I was at S2O, which is one of the first festivals that was held back when the Corona was lifted, the Corona restrictions were lifted. And I remember even when I was there saying, hey, like, I'm cool going, but like, I want to be at the back of the crowd. I don't want to be at the front of the crowd. I'm not wedging in there. I don't have people around me. And I think you have to take responsibility for your own situation, and you have to take, and that's at the end of the day, the only person who's responsible for you is you. And if you see something, you need to do something and not just go with it. And the second you see it ahead of you, you need to not walk into it. And, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, don't go, right? If you're, you know, feeling uncomfortable, you don't want to do it, do not go. And to me, I know a lot of people that have told me, Koreans have said, listen, I'm not going to feel comfortable going into crowds for a long time after this. This is going to be a long time till I feel comfortable with that. Maybe never will they feel comfortable when you're that tight in a tight situation. And even in subway stations, it can feel like that sometimes. You know, Katie and Flux, you've ridden the metro in Seoul. It's one of the densest cities in the world. And, you know, it's chest to chest during rush hour. But frankly, even me, luckily I have the luxury to do this, but, you know, I try to avoid even the subway during that time because, you know, if I can, or take, you know, the least full car, because I just don't want to be put in that situation. And at least in the subway, everyone is standing. They're not generally moving. They're not pushing. But it's just something that you have to say, look, I'm not going to these events. I'm not putting myself in this situation. Same with you, Jeff. You went to that fireworks festival once. And what did you say? Never again.
Nope. Not worth it. Flux, crowd control. How do you what would be an indicator to you that something's going wrong? Whether it's been from a sporting event or a concert or something you've been to.
Yeah, from my whole perspective, I'm just like, when you get to Itaewon and you get off the train and you just see people, why do you keep moving forward? Like, at that point, there's already so many people there. First of all, I don't know how you manage keeping the people out, because there's these waves coming in. They're going to start, you know, building up outside of Itaewon, and you're not going to have anywhere to put them. But I mean, the best crowd control, honestly, that you're going to have is going to be pepper spray. Like, you stand
the pepper spray.
I'm telling you, it's experience.
We don't want to pepper spray a crowd of 100,000 people, though. That would get ugly.
You know, did it not already get ugly with, you know, you wouldn't have, you know, it's going to get ugly one way or another. Yeah. And if you have this number of people and you want them to go a certain direction, you have to force them, because not going to go willingly, because willingly they want to pile up. And it's not the individual person, it's the crowd that's stupid. The individual person is not stupid. It's the combination that makes it, you know, a stupid crowd that does things that are not smart.
And that's why I don't know how. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and so ultimately,
and so pepper spray.
I think it's crowd control, man.
Okay.
People don't respect you unless, you know, you show some type of authority.
But what about you as an individual? If you're in this thing and you see the crowd developing around you, what would sort of be your personal, I think I need to leave moment?
Just me, for myself, I don't like to go into big crowds just because I am super aware of my surroundings at all times, trained and whatnot. But typically, if you can't put your arm out and not hit somebody, it's time to go. I have to be able to put my arm out and like hit free space. And that's good. Once there is no longer an arm length of free space around you, it's time to get out of there.
See, I'm kind of introverted that way. And I don't know how much of it is just I'm just old and crotchety and don't like people anymore. So I'm not a crowd guy anyway. Like when Legal Mindset and I were hanging out with Future Conflict and with Scott from Future Conflict and other people. We had this brilliant idea. Let's go to this jazz club. It was in some basement. Turned out there was nothing jazz about the club. It was just pounding hip hop with some DJ with his stereo up 4 times louder than needed to be. But there was so many people there. We walked down the stairs. There was one seat open. We tried to take it. almost got in a fight. Andrew wouldn't let me fight the guy, and we just decided,
Yes,
we've been here 2 minutes. I've already been stopped from getting in a fight. It's probably just time to leave. Nothing good is going to happen.
And even that night, it was packed, and we were feeling uncomfortable. But it wasn't anywhere near. It wasn't.
Oh, no.
I mean, it wasn't anywhere near that level. But even then, was the point at which my annoyance, and I was with you, Jeff. My level of annoyance with those crowds is pretty fucking high. Like it's my tolerance for that, especially as I get older, like goes down dramatically. I've become more of a misanthrope when it comes to crowds. So
that's one of my things. I'm just being an introvert. I have like this social tolerance level where I just reach critical mass, and I need to go somewhere and decompress. My funometer has been pegged. That's a wrong phrase to use in this channel. Has reached critical mass, and so it's time to extricate myself. And I've had too much fun, and I need to be alone. Yeah, go ahead.
And I can tell that by your choice of places you choose to relax. You tend to like very, very uncrowded places that are very spacious, very personal, and with your friends who and that's very. And to me, it's really good. I enjoyed hanging out with you, Busan, because those were your happy places, and they're absolutely great places to hang out. But the one thing they had in common is they didn't have a fucking crowd. And even when we were walking through that club, remember that, Jeff, that last night when we walked through that club, even I was like, okay, walking through and want to get the fuck out of here. Like in that club, the club was not completely packed, but we were pushing people out of the way.
It was pretty packed. Yeah. I'd say it was about 3/4 capacity, but he had to go there because it was next to the place where we had an amazing steak dinner. And it's kind of a legendary club here in Busan. So you got to see it. So we literally walked in, made one trip around the bar and said, fuck it, we're out of here. It was just that level. But for me, I don't know why, but I have this weird thing. Maybe it's from reading too much or my mind being a little too active sometimes. But I think it mainly has to do with riding a motorcycle for 34 years before I had to stop from breaking all my bones. But it's always leave yourself an out. Because on a motorcycle, you just have to assume everyone is trying to kill you. And if you're in traffic, someone can hit you from behind, and you can't take a blow from behind by a car like you are if you're in a car. So you always got to leave yourself an out. And I'm just weird. I don't like to have my back towards doors. I like to be looking at doors. And any place I go in, I just want to see where are the exits. And I have this weird phobia about living more than 20 minutes away from a hospital because I was in so many accidents when I was a kid. I was in the hospital so many times. But if I go in a place and I say, okay, there's one exit here, one exit there. If it gets to the point where I cannot easily get to the exit if something happens, then I just go. So that's kind of, if it comes to the point where you cannot identify an exit, or if you can't get to an exit within 10 or 15 seconds, it might be time to move on. Anybody have any thoughts on how to avoid the situation, or before we move on to what happens if you're in one?
Don't go out.
The silence. Don't go out. Well, that's me.
The introverts. But I mean, if you're an extroverted person, like I am an extroverted person, I actually need to physically go outside once a day, or I will go insane. So you're going to be going out, but the thing is, you have to realize, am I going to be enjoying this? Am I going to be having a good time as an extrovert, right? Because we want to go out, but be like, look, I want to go out, but this is not the type of going out that's going to be fun for me. This is not going to be fun for me. This is not going to be a good time. Yes, there's people, but this is not the situation with people where it's no longer under my control. When I'm losing my agency as an individual and I'm swept up in the crowd, that is not where I want to be.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I wanted to go where we were, because I'd been there before and it's actually not that crowded. And again, it's a particular kind of music. So not everybody goes there. So
dang it. I want to know what kind of music it is.
I know that we'll know. I know that we'll know right away as soon as you say it. I want you to put it in the private chat, but I'm
you can say what kind of music it is.
No, because then everyone will know.
Oh, yes. I go there all the time.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay. It's not overly.
Okay.
It's not overly crowded there. Okay, it's not overly crowded for me. And actually, being a teacher and with Corona, and I also teach the lower grades. So I teach, can I say what grade? Yeah, I teach grade 2 elementary school. So, and I actually haven't had COVID yet, which is strange because I teach grade 2. But
I don't think it's a Tibetan throat singing club, but cool on that.
no, it's not. But if you know, you know. But
I know.
Yes.
But you were losing your agency, you said there. You were being carried along with the crowd. That must have been frightening.
Well, because I was holding on to someone and I had their phone numbers in my phone, I didn't feel that bad. And we were kind of like, they were in front of me at all times. Like I didn't lose them in the crowd. I didn't feel that unsafe. I was just surprised. Like I was really surprised. But yeah, we probably should have just went home. But, being stuck inside, like you guys said, it's after Corona, everyone wants to go out, I usually go to bed at like 8:00 now because I feel like I'm an old person. I'm only 33, but I feel like an old person because I teach grade 2 all day. I teach 8-year-olds all day. So
I was going to say,
my sister teaches 2nd grade.
Yeah.
Most teachers here get off at 10. So that's actually kind of early.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm an elementary school teacher. So like I get off early. So, but I get off around 4. So I get to go to bed basically at 8:00. So I read and I go to bed. Like I eat, I shower, I read, I go to bed. I eat.
Hold on, you missed a
shower.
step. Watch Legal Vices and you go to bed. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do. I actually do watch them before I go to bed. Actually, I usually fall asleep, which is why I stop responding in chat because I'm so exhausted. But again, that's what happens. So that's why I wanted to go out. And my friend's like, hey, want to do this? And I'm like, sure. I have never been to Halloween in Itaewon before. Let's do it. So, and never doing it again. Never.
And I think that's the sentiment that a lot of people had. Like either it's my first time, I've never been, or I haven't been in a while. Like, so it's not like people were going out like trying to get in trouble. Like they just wanted to have fun and see what was going on.
And I just felt so guilty.
Yeah, XCOMer has just gifted 5 Legal Vices membership, so deeply appreciate you for that.
Engineer said Legal Vices is the new ASMR channel, apparently.
Hey,
listen, I'm tired.
Well, speaking of Legal Vices, we got to clear some super chats. Then I want to move on to the what to do if you find yourself in a situation where things have gone bad. Paula Williams, how did they identify the foreigners? ID, which is probably why I should carry my ID on me.
And that's one thing I am terrified of not being identified because I watch so much of the true crime stuff. I have my ID on me at all times, and I've made sure to have all my tattoos documented. So I will always be identified because I don't ever want to be not identified. That's a phobia.
Wow.
It's a real thing.
I also have my ID on me at all times. It's in my phone.
Let's see. I got on my. I do now because Andrew literally yelled at me.
I'm not going out with you anymore unless you have your fucking ID in your goddamn wallet, Jeff. You're irresponsible. You're an irresponsible foreigner, and you are shame. You are shame on all of us. You need
that, Jeff. You need that.
Everybody carries it.
I didn't know I needed to go into a bar at 53 damn years old.
How are we going to go to Thursday party without the ID? We cannot go to Thursday party without that ID. This is our mission next time.
Good.
Get to a Thursday party.
Make sure I never accidentally end up there. A Savage says, stupid question. If there were notification of problems hours before the tragedy, could we not have stopped people from entering the area like a fire code situation? Well, that's one thing. They are looking at the bars and the clubs to see if they violated anything. But again, even if they were too crowded, this happened in the street, not inside of a place.
In fact, the overcrowding of the bars and the clubs would have helped the situation on the street because it would have alleviated the pressure. So actually, them strictly enforcing it would have just forced more people into the choke point. In fact, you saw people climbing up and over into those bars, like climbing up, being pulled up into the bars to save them. Those people that got into the bars were saved, not the other way around.
I wish I was drunk. Second day in a row. I love midterm breaks. How are we? We're doing great. Thank you so much for your super chat. Miss you. Need to get to the to vacation time soon. And Loba says, I have never seen something in the scale of the Korean tragedy that just happened, but I've seen similar things happen at a festival I went to here on the East Coast of the U.S. Yeah, I mean, these things are scary when they happen. Robin Hood. I thought they were saying some pop person was there. That's been debunked. There was someone that died in it who was an obscure talent who was on a talent show in 2017 and was supposed to be in a series coming up next year.
And there was also like an actor, a low-level actor that was on the street, not nearby, but like on the back street, and just commented on the scene generally. But once again, there wasn't any like BTS member out there, somebody that they're all running to go see. This was not a crowd crushed because they're trying to get a signature. They were just trying to move and go to the next party. That's really
in fact, they would have security if that was the case.
Exactly.
And so this is what I don't get. Here we have mosh pits. Mosh pits require movement. It requires you to have a lot of space to throw elbows, to build up speed, to bump. This is people stuck like this.
Yeah.
I bet if it was an outdoor mosh pit scene, it would have been safe again. John Byrne, thank you so much for the super chat. This has happened more since COVID restrictions have lifted. Do you think how the governments have handled the easing of restrictions has contributed? Korea is doing it very slowly, very, very in stages to sort of just prevent these kind of free-for-alls. This was just a fluke accident that in hindsight was obvious that it was going to happen, but nobody, not even the people in the middle of it, even conceived of this happening. But now it's on the radar. Now it's there. I mean, if anything, I think Korea is being too cautious with the.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I mean, obviously, I actually got interviewed by the Korean news when I was here, and I like always caveat it. Hey, I'm a foreigner. I have no, say in this. I have no vote in this. This is an issue for you guys, right? But the number one impact was the restrictions, and that's something that was, impacting all of us. It's impacting businesses. It really gutted Itaewon before, and it was just in the process of ramping back up. People were just getting comfortable going out. It was just being okay. It was just being fine to go out and have a good time again. And just as we're getting started, we get stopped, and this is going to stop it in this country. I feel for a while. It's just not going to feel right going out and going to a bar or a club and having fun like that for a while. I'm afraid.
And Nathan says South Korea pepper spray containing OC are legal. Actually, back in the late 80s, when there was the massive demonstrations I was telling Legal Mindset about with the fire bombs and the Molotov cocktails, and the Israeli army was looking into buying tear gas from Korea reportedly, and they said it was just too inhumane, the strength of the pepper spray they were using here in the tear gas. But Engineer says the problem with pepper spray is that it can cause a stampede, which adds to the problem, i.e. Hazel Stadium disaster, people panicking, running away from the riot. Well, we just need to get it to the point where we don't need to consider things like that. Amber Fox, people need to always be aware of their exits. Exactly. That's what I was saying. Example, Station nightclub in 2003, 100 died, 230 injured. No one used exits, and they could have because they didn't plan ahead, sadly. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Just know your way out and have an exit and be able to get there quickly. Amazing t-shirt, Flux. Can we see the infamous flute?
I didn't realize what shirt I was wearing until it's probably inappropriate for the stream, but
oh well, too late.
I'm just gonna roll with it.
Jeff, as usual, won't put his pineapple shirt on. Yeah, it's never gonna be again on stream. Does Flux sell her paintings? Grift her. We're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to. I've always painted. I've never really thought they were good until recently. I've just kind of been like, this is what I do for my therapy, and it's relaxing. So here, I guess if you guys want to buy it, you can. It's not terrible. It's good
we will
elevator
soon be
art.
dealing. Yeah. No, we will soon be dealing with some Flux art, because Flux may or may not be actually painting a commission painting for me,
which I may or may not be working on today.
Cool. Yes, I've commissioned a painting from her, so we'll be grifting that hard when it comes.
Oh yeah.
And I guess in the meantime, if anybody wants to get a hold of her, she has her YouTube channel. She's doing lots of shorts and things with her painting time-lapse things and stuff. So pimp your channel. What's
I think it's Flux. I don't even I think it's just I mean, I'm just I'm what they call an old soul. So the whole YouTube thingy, I figured out how to send my full name to you to get me a mod. That took me like 2 weeks. But we're working on getting the channel up.
And the Tank Rat has just gifted 20 Legal Vices memberships. Tank Rat is the man. So if you were one of these lucky people to get one of the 20 gifts from Tank Rat, give him a big shout out, a big thanks. He's I think we might be up over 1,000 members now.
Awesome.
Wow.
I mean, it's got to be close.
Yeah.
Let's really quickly check this, and we'll go through the gift. Then we'll do what happens if we get into this situation. Bear with me for just one quick second. I haven't checked for a while, and curiosity has finally gotten the better of me. Scroll down quickly to memberships. If you want to join the Legal Vices membership, let's see, total members.
Was that another 20 he just dropped?
Probably.
Wait.
Oh, that was the other one. Wow.
No, that was Xcomer. Xcomer dropping 20. So with that, that's 45 more than I have on the stream. So we are at exactly 890 members at the moment. Wow.
Nice.
And like 850 of them are from Tank Rat, and the other 50 are from Xcomer. So you got a lot of catching up to do, Xcomer. Anyway, Flux, hit her up for the pictures if you want them. Soon, someday, well, I don't know if it's going to be soon, but sooner or later, there will be a reveal. Spooky Spoon, hey, Jeff, when is Daryl Brooks getting sentenced, please? Victim impact statements on the 15th. 16th is the sentencing date. Everywhere Jeff goes, he carries a Jim Morrison poster. Get it? Doors. Nice. How'd that joke go over there for you, James Andrew Morrison? Nathan C. Fire code. Isn't there a max cap in the alleys? I mean, it's outdoors.
Yeah. Who's the thing is, a fire code is enforced by the building owner. Who enforces the alleys and the streets?
Yeah, the streets.
That's the. I mean, if anything, the government. But you don't think of a street as having a max capacity, typically.
Yeah.
I did hear that who are they? Aren't they gonna check the Hamilton Hotel though? If they're following building code?
But it wouldn't matter because the Hamilton Hotel doesn't control that alley. That's outside of the Hamilton Hotel. So
like the part that goes out. I read something that the police chief is gonna.
They're probably gonna check everything and see if they can find someone and hold somebody, because this was not. That's one thing people need to understand. This was not an organized event. This was not like Yongsan or Itaewon saying, "Let's have a big street party." This was just people independently coming to have a good time in the place where you go to have a good time.
I guess people didn't realize that in the U.S. it's not, or wherever everyone is, it's not like organized by one entity or many.
Who are you going to sue? Somebody needs to be sued. Throw somebody in. Who are you going to throw? It's just like people going, "Hey, let's go to Itaewon." Yeah,
right. And finding a fall guy is not the same as pinning is finding actual responsibility. Like you can find a fall guy. I'm sure there's somebody that did something wrong that broke like a fire code, and if they really needed a fall guy, they can find one. But that doesn't mean that fall guy was solely responsible for it.
We have Drex Drex is here. Ain't no baby size Korean's gonna crush me.
You know what's but in all seriousness though, there were some guys in there, and even the bigger guys, like if you're fall and you're at the bottom of the stack, like you got 600 pounds above you. I mean, no matter how much you lift, you ain't lifting that, 600, 800 pounds and then compounded.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple more of these to plow through, and then we'll get into what happens if you find yourself in this situation. Eskimo No Phono is our newest paid member. Thank you so much for joining. Deeply appreciated. Nathan C. again, Vice Squad is harder than a frozen Baldo. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And Kimberly Campbell, are you going to cover the Delphi murder case? Is that the suitcase one?
No, that was the one with the two girls from Delphi. What was it?
The missing girls.
Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Indiana.
They were murdered.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They went missing, and then the next day they were found. I've been following that one.
Me too.
From the beginning. Yeah.
I love true crime, so I mean,
Me too.
yeah. I mean, I don't like the crime. I just,
Yeah.
Like the mystery.
I like them. I have to watch what I say on the internet, I swear.
Oh, well, hey, everybody. Bye, everyone. There we are. Hi. What to do if you're caught in a crowd surge. Now, those of you that are regular viewers of my Maritime Monday streams, we do a lot of streams from a channel called Brick Immortar, who does a lot of these major structure collapses and maritime collisions and things. He actually did a video a while ago. I think it was after the Travis Scott thing to address this issue. And I think it's a brilliant video, and it talks a lot about this issue of what to do if you're caught in a crowd surge. And I thought we just watch through this and hopefully learn something from it. So what you're caught in a crowd crush.
1, arms up. 2, go with the flow. 3, stay standing. 4, stay away from hard surfaces and barriers.
One of the most obvious ways to survive a crowd crush is to simply stay home and not be in a crowd crush. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and take care.
That's my video.
In all seriousness, though, there's a lot more to crowd crushes, and to be honest,
see, and I like if you saw in the introductory seconds how literally the laws of fluid dynamics were taking over. When there's no longer people moving independently like this, you begin to flow like a liquid, like you were saying, Katie, when you're walking through. And this shows how the buildups happen. This little part of the video here.
Crowds in general are personally one of my worst fears, but not from a lack of understanding. In fact, crowd crushes are widely known to be deadly and claim dozens, sometimes hundreds of more lives year after year. They span history from as recently as the well-known Travis Scott Astroworld incident to the Jewish Roman revolt stampede dating all the way back to the year 66 AD, when religious pilgrims gathered in Jerusalem, panicked in the subsequent crowd surge, and massive stampede resulted in an estimated 10,000 deaths. One of the first of the phenomena on record, and to this day, still one of the deadliest. Hey everyone, this is Sam with Brick and Mortar, home of the Collapse series, Tragic Tales, and more. If episodes on engineering, structural, man-made feats and failures throughout history interest you, consider checking out more of what the channel has to offer after this video. Joining me today is emergency medicine physician and digital creator, Dr. J. Max Slaughter, to give the 4 primary tips to remember if you are, unfortunately, caught in a crowd crush. But before we get into the dark details of how they so routinely claim lives and how to increase your chances of survival, we need to look at the surprising amount of situations that can result in a bottlenecked, collapsed, or surging crowd. Historically, crowd crushes and stampedes have extremely high death tolls, but as infrastructure becomes more prolific, so too has spaces where even small crowds can become hazardous, which has increased the frequency of these events dramatically over the last century. Despite being someone who tries to avoid crowds at all costs, I can honestly say even I am occasionally in these potential situations, and sometimes without even realizing it. When brought up in conversation or seen on the news, initial images come to mind of overcrowded concerts, religious pilgrimage, massive parades, or similar. But there doesn't need to be an overwhelmingly large or even panicked crowd for this to happen. Just a ratio of people large enough and determined enough to move in one direction that they overwhelm points of ingress or egress. In fact, how often do we find ourselves at the theater, attending school, on the bus, a crowded workplace, a crowded retail store, or public places with an elevator, escalator, or stairwell? They have the potential to happen anywhere a group can become bottlenecked, or worse, locked in or trapped. One common misconception is that people get trampled anytime there is loss of life involved. Many news outlets really like this term and tend to apply it in crowd crush related stories.
And this is one we've seen here repeatedly thrown out in relation to the Korean, is that calling it a stampede. It was the exact opposite of a stampede. Nobody was rushing anywhere. A stampede is a rush, a running, and that just was the opposite of what was happening.
Although it can happen, of course, crowd crush deaths even occur amongst those still standing.
I'm Dr. J. Max Slaughter, and these are the 4 things you can do to survive a crowd crush. 1, arms up. When a crowd of tens of thousands of people are compressing against your chest wall can't expand and collapse properly. And so all of a sudden, you can't exhale carbon dioxide. You can't inhale oxygen. Your carbon dioxide levels start to go through the roof. You get lightheaded. You get euphoric. You may pass out. It's at that time that your oxygen levels then tank and you start to do permanent damage to your brain and potentially die. 2, go with the flow. When you're in a huge amount of people like this, the physics turn into more of liquid dynamics than individual human beings. So movements on the outer periphery of the mass of people will transmit through the entire crowd like water. You can see these videos from helicopters and kind of the bird's eye view, and the whole crowd is swaying and moving just like water. What you need to do is go with the flow. You don't have enough strength in your body to push against the force of tens of thousands of people as it's transmitted through the crowd. So save your energy. You're going to need it. 3, stay standing. Imagine you're in a bathtub and all of a sudden you pull the drain. What happens? All the water collapses into that drain. When one person falls and the force of the crowd continues to push in towards that hole, all of those people start falling on top of that one individual, and the person at the bottom is not going to have an easy time breathing. 4, stay away from hard surfaces and barriers. If you imagine that force being transmitted throughout the entire crowd, it gets to you, and then you go to transfer that force directly into a wall. That wall is going to push back at you with an equal and opposite reactive force, right? All of that force from the crowd is going to come back into your chest wall. It's going to break ribs. You could break your spine. You could do damage to your internal organs of the abdomen. Stay away from these hard surfaces. That's all I have for you today, Sam. Hopefully people never have to use this information. Dr. J. Max Slaughter signing off.
So these situations can be categorized into 3 major types: the crowd surge and crowd collapse, as the doctor mentioned, and then the crowd crush. The crush is more about density, the ratio of people to that particular point of egress, escape route, or obstacle, or the crush can come as the end result of a crowd surge's pressure wave. Crushes can suddenly occur when a moving crowd is funneled into a smaller and smaller space,
which is what
meets an
happened
obstacle,
here.
like a dead-end locked door, immovable barricade, or even just a tight corner. Essentially, the crowd crush can be the most difficult to recognize, predict, and avoid. Of the 3 types, they require the least amount of people total, groups of hundreds down to even dozens. When occupying a space small enough, a relatively small group can easily begin to exceed the capacity of, say, hallways, enclosed escalators, stairwells, or emergency exits. Stacking then occurs on the floor or upright, with many crushes resulting in victims lost even while still standing. If at all possible, make an effort to move around any barriers, putting the barriers between you and the crushing crowd, like a tiny island in a raging river. The Victoria Hall disaster of 1883, for example, was a crowd surge leading to a major crushing event where 180 plus children were killed. The children, being the only ones in the crush, up against such a narrow escape route, meant their physical size, much smaller than that of the average adult, didn't matter, and the crush ensued regardless. Know your points of ingress and egress. Know your escape routes. If the crowd seems to be growing too dense, leave early before it's too late. Keep your belongings on your person. Dropped items like backpacks, purses, or even a loose shoe can become trip hazards, and that can trigger crowd collapse. Be considerate of those around you. Displaying these acts of stepping up to help others can be contagious, and if this spreads in the crowd, it can quickly create an atmosphere of people helping people, mitigating the effects of individualistic panic. And most importantly, do not panic. Panic is not only what further hinders a crowd from exiting safely and calmly, but it also robs you personally of the precious oxygen that's keeping you alive in those critical moments. And if you aren't solo, make sure you and your party discuss ahead of time how you'll keep track of one another, your rally points indoors and outdoors, and establish points of exit early on. Take yours or your group's limitations seriously, and again, stay calm. These steps all might sound a bit cheesy to some, but in the middle of a panicked crowd, the force of which becomes strong enough to bend steel, it's literally life or death, and how impressive you are will be meaningless. Thanks so much to Dr. J. Max Slaughter for helping to make this video possible. Go check out his TikTok where he's amassed over 40 million views, or even his YouTube channel. Dr. J. Mack is striving to be a voice for more positive vibes and legitimate, knowledgeable tips like these here today. He really knows his stuff. His links will be in description and pinned comment.
All right.
And let me know in the comments what you think of crowd crushes. Would you like to see?
Well, I think they suck. I think we all hit every one of those points that was mentioned in that video in our own explanations. And again, it's one of these things where you hope you never need it, but it's good to have there. How many of us really pay attention to the safety briefings on airplanes? Maybe I'm the weird one, but I always check under my seat to see if the life vest is there.
I always follow along on the card, but that's
if you need that, you're probably in a whole lot of trouble. But I'm one of the folks that was happy. I was on a flight back from Tokyo, and the person who I was in exit row, and the person who took the exit row across from me, it was totally empty, and a random person came and sat down in it, without knowing anything was going on, and went to sleep across the entirety of the exit row. And I was comforted when they came back and they tossed him out, because okay, if there's an actual emergency here and there's some dude sleeping across all the aisles who doesn't even know what's going on, who doesn't care, who's not paying attention, that's not exactly who I want to be, guiding things on the way out. That's going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
We have one more super chat here from iFid. Can we sue the doc for stealing Elvis mindset and Ace Ventura's hair?
That guy was a lot.
I could not take him seriously.
I caught the positive vibes part, and I was like, you lost me. You lost me at positive vibes. I'm sorry.
He's a short form TikToker guy that's got 40 million. That video he did on crowd
I can tell.
40 million views. Yeah.
I saw his hair and I knew.
Yeah.
There was a study or something that came out where they're making people out to be more like cartoon characters. And I see it so often now on these TikTok videos. Everybody's they're so dramatic with how they talk and how they speak and with their hair. I'm that you're a cartoon character. You're not a real person.
I've never done TikToks in my life, and I did not have a TikTok channel with 250,000 followers. That was not a thing that ever happened. No, never, never.
Well, the information in the video, both the main video and the doctor, it's good information. It's common sense, but that's the problem in these situations. Common sense is the first thing to go out the window.
I was gonna say you're panicked. He says stay calm, but we all know what happens when stay calm, everyone stay calm. And it's not stay calm at that point. It's everyone's ah!
I picture Michael Scott screaming in the office, stay effing calm. The smoke alarm scene.
And that's the things we can't control other people's calmness or excitedness. We can just kind of maybe train ourselves to remain calm. And see, I'm the person that everybody hates to go when we go to concerts or sporting events or movies, especially airplanes. I'm one of the last people out, because I know that if I'm one of the first people out the door, I'm going to be with 100 billion other people. I'm going to sit in my car in the parking lot for 5 hours waiting to get out. as soon as the plane lands, if I stand up, I'm still not moving anywhere until the 45 rows in front of me get out.
I
And
can't
so I'm just
stand
to
those
sit and
people.
wait. Yeah. And I
can't
leave
stand
the
those
movie
people that
theater when the
stand up
house
and
lights go up.
rush.
Yeah. And that's what causes these bottleneck situations. I'm thankfully planes are small enough. It doesn't get that way, but
But
I
you
think
see
that
that
would
on
be
planes all the time.
yeah. And that would be the other thing I would say is when you're in crowded situations, just wait.
Yeah,
Just,
there's no place that you're going that is worth it. Just wait.
Yeah. Well, we've done I was planning on going about 2 hours. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes here. So would kind of probably time to wrap this up. Like I said, I just wanted to do a final update on the situation. What was learned over the previous 72 hours? What developments have happened and where the current investigation stands. I don't think we'll be doing any more of these because they're really major downers. And I promise that tomorrow we'll be back to the usual legal vices self. But I just kind of wanted to give this an extra kind of a closure thing, and then talk to Kaitie, and then Flux people are saying, well, bring Flux on. I'm like, that's a great idea, and Legal Mindsets here in Korea as well. So we all have the Korea experience in different capacities and different times. And I thought it was good to have everybody just come here and talk and give your experiences and then thoughts with the crowd. Kaitie, anything you want to say, shill or grift on the way out?
No, I will be going on Friday with my friend to place flowers, and
that's nice.
Then go eat dinner and kind of like give some money back to one of the restaurants over there.
Yeah, a lot of fantastic restaurants there, and that's who I really feel for, is those people who pour their hearts and souls into it. A lot of them are immigrants who put all their money into their business. That's their entire living. That's their entire life. There's some fantastic ones. I love Dubai restaurant. Petra is really good. There's a lot of other fantastic places there. And like, just go and support the businesses that are there.
Yeah.
Even if you're just grabbing a quick, something to go because you don't want to hang around too much, that really does help. I mean, it really does.
Yeah. Andrew, what do you got coming up in the next few days?
So tomorrow I'm going to the doctor because my cough is getting pretty crazy. I do love Korean medical care. It's so fast and efficient. So I will actually be in tomorrow doing that in the morning. So I probably will not have a morning stream. If I do, or a PM Eastern time morning Korea stream. If I do, it'll be a locals exclusive. Then I have going to be talking about the art of the grift with Hotep Jesus about at midnight our time, which is 12 noon EST tomorrow. So that should be really interesting. And then I'll be covering all the crazy trial stuff as we go up. And also on Rumble, I'll be covering the election on election night. So
nice. Good. We'll be having our own little bit of an election watch for one of our viewers, one of my homies, Danielle On, who is running for Salt Lake County District Attorney against an asshole who needs to be voted out. Anything else you want to grift on your way out? If not, everybody needs to go to visit the Legal Mindsets YouTube channel, his Rumble, his locals, his everything. Just go to every possible platform and search for Legal Mindset or The Legal Mindset, and you'll get him on everything.
I don't know if I have you on Rumble yet. I should search you after this.
I just upgraded I upgraded my package, which sounds bad, and I know I shouldn't say it, so I'm going to unsay it right now. But I realized like there's actually a way to like make it slightly easier. So we'll see, guys.
They made it easier to upgrade your package, huh?
He's gonna upgrade his package and make it easier. That's all right. Sweet.
All right.
And Flux, what have you got going on? What do you have to shill, grift, and or promote?
You guys can always find me in Legal Vices chat. I'm here to hang out with all of you. You guys can pop over to my channel. I'll just talk and paint, and that's what I like to do. I like to hang out with you guys. So you can find me either there on Twitter at Flux. I also like to chat with you guys there. But just I'm always down to chat. You guys can always find me in Legal Vices chat.
I will also be in the chat.
You guys are awesome. Thank you all for being here. And Andrew, as always, tomorrow night is Judge Harriet Thompson. Is she the most horrific, horrendous, racist, homophobic judge on planet Earth? Or is she the object of a smear campaign? a couple of weeks ago did a short little bit on her. She hates literally everybody. She's a black liberal Christian judge who hates black people, white people, black women, people from the West Indies, Mexicans, everybody. She literally hates everybody. And people, I read an article. People said, "Oh, BS, this isn't true. Show the receipts. You've got it. This can't possibly be real. This has to be a left-wing woke targeting conservatives." You wanted the receipts. Tomorrow, I'm bringing the receipts. We've got the affidavit against her from the judge that booted her off the bench and her reply affidavit. The few things I mentioned in that article are nothing. I'm bringing you 20 pages of single-spaced rants from this woman against everybody and her assertion that it's just a big smear campaign. That's coming up on Wednesday. Thursday, as always, is OJ Simpson, where we're going to be doing F. Lee Bailey, one of those amazing defense lawyers ever to walk planet Earth, destroying for the 5th week in a row racist cop Mark Furman. We've got a theme going here, like it's a racism theme apparently this week. And Friday is my F It Friday stream, where I'm just going to grift my heart out. Everybody's got to bring your $100 bills, throw them at me, do shots where, because of what you've done, I have to do shots of a 25-year bottle of scotch, which is going to crush my soul to do shots of that precious liquid. That's what's coming up. And then next Monday, on Maritime Monday, we always do Maritime Monday, we will be doing a whiskey maritime incident tie-in. So that's what's coming up for me. It's kind of weird to say like a video like this, but please hit the like button to get the YouTube algorithm going. Comment, come back later and comment so we get post live stream engagement. And if you haven't subscribed, I would be deeply honored and appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel. We need 48 more subscribers to get to 32,000. So if 48 of you haven't subscribed, please go there and do that. Thank you, mods, so much for being here. And especially Mod Flux, who is here on the stream. Thank you for being on the stream. Katie, thanks for being here. Legal Mindset, thanks for being here. Chat, thank you for being here. People that are just listening in the background, thank you. Thanks for the super chats. We'll see you tomorrow when we get into, we're going to start 1 hour later, by the way, at 9 a.m. Eastern instead of the usual 8 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, take care. Enjoy your legal vices.